Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities in Miniature. It is time for some really deep cuts for some obscurities in literature today. I have been on a bit of an anthology kick, something that happens to me quite regularly. I've always enjoyed anthologies, especially comic anthologies. I've mentioned before, I had a lot of very mind-blowing experiences early on in life when I was really getting into comics with stuff like heavy metal, with stuff like the old EC books, with stuff like Monster Massacre and the various square-bound books that Pat Mills and company were putting out through small publishers at the time in the early to mid-90s. But one of the things that has also been a major influence on me and my passions and interests and hobbies has been manga. And I can remember picking up the, Frederick L. Schmidt manga book very, very early on. I'm pretty sure I have one early edition of the book. Where it is at the moment is anybody's guess. I'm not going to try to even go look for it, because every time I try to look for a book prior to filming, it takes forever to find. So, sorry you can't see that one today. Maybe one of these days I stumble across it, we'll whip that back out. But reading that for the first time, and I've read that book cover to cover, let me tell you, I don't know where and I don't know when, but I can recall at one point first stumbling upon Shonen Jump, and the particular issue that it was had to have been early to mid 80s. Maybe not early, maybe mid to late, I don't even know. I do recall, however, that Kinnikuman was still in its original serialization, and it was one chapter in particular where they were going through a tournament that was like on the side of a mountain in like glass boxes attached to the side, like cliffside, and like I don't remember what they were doing at the time, but I don't remember which characters. I just remember that vividly, and I feel like they were fighting the microphone dude in that particular issue, and I don't know who of myself and my brothers owned it, or where we acquired it, or the how behind it, but we had it, and I had like a Fist of the North Star. I want to say it might have had Black Cat, or no, not Black Cat. Cat's Eye. Cat's Eye, I want to say. I was thinking of City Hunter. I don't know where Black Cat came from. Trying to remember what else, but those in particular, maybe it wasn't necessarily Fist of the North Star, it might have been Cyber Weapon Z or whatever. It's definitely Tetsuo Hara art. I believe it was the artist. Anyway, I'm just totally getting off track. But the reason I bring that up is because, again, anthologies of all shapes and sizes have kind of been there throughout my life and shaped a lot of my comic tastes. And so it really pissed me off when I stumbled across Cry Punch Comics after the fact. And I mean after the fact because this was originally Kickstarted. And if I had known about it at the time, and it was only a few years back from me posting this video that it was originally published, I'm going to say like 2021 or something like that, I would have been all over this. And I'm like, I was looking at comics back then. I know I picked up things like God Hates Astronauts and a few others here and there. I mean, that one just stands out in my head. But I didn't even know. And that's really one of those infuriating things that always seems to bother me about Kickstarter, is finding out about all the cool stuff after the fact. And this in particular book is really pretty dang cool. And I blame a lot of the creators involved in it for part of that reason. But part of it is they just got the right vibe. And for something like manga, I feel like vibe is a major part of it. And just looking at it, you can see, I mean, it is not drawn necessarily in a very specific manga-esque style, and the pacing certainly is not very manga-esque, even though considering the thickness of this book, you definitely have enough space to really kind of let it play out, but the vibes are there, and this book is nothing but very Shonen Jump-esque stories, or at least stories that have been inspired by the major anthology. And in that, I feel like it's very focused on fighting stuff. So if you like a lot of action type stories, this might be an interesting one. And with the styles presented here, there's going to be a little bit of something for everybody. And much like the other books that some of these guys were involved with, like Dagger, there's going to be certain things that probably stand out to you and some that really don't click. And that's always the case with things like this. And it's interesting. So there's a fair amount of stories here, as you can see. There's about a dozen or so. But just due to the size, each of the artists are really kind of allowed to just, spend some time doing it. Most of the stories, anywhere from 20 to 40 plus pages. And there's some neat styles. There's definitely some neat pieces here. Some of the stories are easier to follow than others. I particularly enjoyed the main mastermind behind this, Al Gofa, if I believe that's how I'm saying it correctly, with his demon brothers. There's definitely some fun stuff. I still got to get his Dark Dagger of Darkness or whatever it's called. Bugs me that that book is so overpriced these days. And like I said, the art isn't necessarily like totally clicking for a manga style, but the vibes are 100% there. And it really reminds me, especially some of these stories in here, the French book, who I believe they made an animated thing on Netflix, and the name is absolutely escaping me at the moment. Shoot. Not Flashman. God. It's like the kid wanted to become a wizard or mage or something, and they were having like a competition, and then like the main dude shows up and joins in the fun. I can't remember him. That's totally unrelated to this book completely. And I mean, that's kind of the thing I love about these is the style of the artist and the creativity involved. Like this one where the king is the last one standing on the hands of this giant. There's some fun stuff going on. Like, and here's like one of those very manga-esque vibe panels. Just random anime type art. I shouldn't say anime art. That bugs me. I don't like hearing that. Why am I using that? I think of all the stories, this one in particular is one of the more that gets that vibe. Problem is all the names are in the back of the story itself. Some of the stories read better like their inspiration than others. One of the big issues with this book for me is the fonts. Some of the fonts are really easy to read. Some of them I kind of get annoyed. Like the font on this story, I love the art, but the font bugs me for some reason. It reminds me of like old typewriters. Why that bugs me? Couldn't tell you. I think this is probably another one of the most manga-esque of the book itself. As far as I know, there are absolutely no Japanese creators involved, which makes it even more fun. I hear the fly buzzing in agreement with me in the room. We've had the worst outbreak of flies hanging around our house this summer. It's been quite annoying. Yes, the whole thing is in black and white. Hopefully that's not much of an issue. I love the use of the zip tones and grayscale in a lot of these things. One of these, not the post-apocalyptic one, one of these gives like major like early Tony Takazaki vibes. Might have been this one. Or trying to think of the guy that did Old City Blues and worked on Prophet with all those guys. Gino something or other. Like, that's really vague. Amor Vez. That one I liked. Last one didn't do a whole lot for me, and I think it's the style mostly, which is a shame because I really love giant robots. Unfortunately, there was going to be a sister book Gamma Twinkles, which was going to be a more sci-fi bent one, and it did not come to fruition. Hopefully someday it does. I feel like the market is ripe for this kind of stuff. We need more books like this. Just the fact that this exists alone makes me happy, and the fact that I own it makes me even happier, because I really do enjoy these kinds of things. Plus, they're really great gateways into, number one, finding more artists that you might enjoy. But number two, just seeing what else is out there and getting that inspiration, just like a lot of the artists here got inspired by, Shonen Jump stuff. I can see this stuff, given the proper outlet, could be a great inspiration for the next generation of artists as well. And that's always a good thing. Like, would I necessarily put this on a shelf with my students at school? Not necessarily. I'd probably catch some flack for that, which is a shame. But, I think given the right type of people and younger folks that might enjoy something like this, I think there's a lot of fun to be had. There's a little risque stuff here and there, but you know what? That was half the fun of those books, let me tell you. And let's be honest, some of us picking up things like heavy metal and many of the Japanese, manga magazines probably were exposed to things that we wouldn't have seen necessarily in an American comic for somebody of an appropriate age. So we'll leave that there. But anyway, a lot of fun to be had here. I'd love to see more stuff from these artists. I know this is getting a couple years old at this point, but hopefully we see something like this coming down the line. I know the guys that did the Mold book, Pew2. I don't know what the publisher's correct name is, but I know their main magazine was having a new volume coming out, so maybe I should do a video on those. The X-Mag or whatever it's called. Anyway, I'm rambling, so that's probably a pretty good sign that I should stop filming at this point and let you all on with your day, and hopefully go on out there and track some of this stuff down yourself. So, with that said then, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye!